and it is more psychological. But there are also some things that you can do, especially as you get in retirement or close to retirement, to kind of help with the emotional side of things, but also be strategic from a planning standpoint. So you're right, as you were younger and saving and accumulating, like down markets are what you hope for. Everything's on sale, let me buy more. Now your mentality shifts in some respect, thinking, okay, now I'm retired, I don't have as much time, I'm not gonna be able to have this recover. And you mentioned that you've got hopefully another 30 plus years ahead of you, so you still have the same time horizon, if you will, for a good majority of your savings as you did at the beginning of your career. So you were comfortable knowing, hey, I've got 30 years before I need these funds, I'm not going to worry about it. Well, you've got 30 years before you're going to need some of these funds, but some of them you're going to need in the short term. So I can't speak to what all advisors do, but this is a big part of working with an advisor, is structuring the portfolio, not only for your risk tolerance, because that's important. You've got to be able to stomach the ups and downs and stomach when you log into Altruist and see what the portfolio value is and not get so upset that you force yourself to sell. So you have to have the right risk tolerance. But risk tolerance is a funny thing because that is a at the moment conversation, meaning your risk tolerance not only changes throughout your career, it changes throughout the year. It changes throughout the month, depending on what's going on in your life. Your tolerance for risk can be impacted by a number of things, not just the stock market. So risk tolerance, it's a tricky thing to try to go, but overall, it's about having the portfolio in a situation where you're not going to get so spooked that you're going to sell, which is usually the worst time to do it. But the other thing is, when you get to the retirement phase, is making sure that you have enough conservative, shorter-term investments that may still fluctuate some, will earn some interest, so you're earning a little bit of money, but aren't going to be in the market. You can determine what's the right amount for you. Could be 6 months, could be a year, could be 18 months, 2 years, whatever it is. But then that way you can look at your portfolio and say, all right, 2022, the market's down, 20%. Diversified portfolios down 14, 15%. So not super, super scary, but also not great. But the good thing is my next year's worth of monthly distributions that I know I'm going to have are sitting in cash and short-term bonds. So the funds I need in the next 2 years aren't even in the market right now, which allows the other part of your portfolio at least 2 years to recover. And in 2 years, we don't know what's going to happen, but in 2 years, you would like to think that at least some of the recovery has come back. There's no guarantee to that, but if you go back and look at a stock market chart, very rarely do we have multiple years in a row where we're down. It can happen. 2007, 8, that was there. There's 3 years there. There's another period. Right. I'm thinking of the S&P 500 chart. I show clients all the time. So it is possible to have multiple years, but most of the time that's not the case. So now you've given yourself the emotional capacity to look at that portfolio and say, all right, I'm down 15%, but next year and a half, 2 years of income is flat, maybe down a little or up a little. So I don't have to lose sleep knowing where's my money going to come from for the next 2 years. I know where it's from. And then if all things go as what we've experienced, as that portfolio begins to recover, you rebalance and you take some of those recovering gains, you put them back into the cash. You always maintain this window of cash and short-term type of investments or whatever fits for you, CDs, fixed annuities, whatever works for your plan, but that you can go to bed every night knowing that your next amount of time of income is not tied to the market. Right. The funds that are tied to the market are for you in 3, 4, 5 years, which now gives you a little bit more of a comfort level. And if you go look at history, the longer you give yourself time, the more likelihood you're going to come out ahead. And while there's 5-year periods where the market was down or you wouldn't have, it's a very small percentage. I haven't looked at the charts, but it used to be maybe like 90% of the time in a 5-year period you'd be up. You go to 20 years, and I don't think there's ever been a 20-year period where the market was down. There's been a couple 20 years where it wasn't much higher, but you weren't worse off. So I think that that's a big part of what you can do in a transition. And if you're